Hi everyone, and welcome to Linux Admin Regex Refresher. So before you started this class, you should have worked with regular expressions or regex, also sometimes heard regex, before. However, regex is one of those things where it can be easy to forget, and it's also confusing enough that it's not really something that's intuitive, that sort of, once you know it, you can do it forever. It requires a little bit more practice than that. So, starting from the refresher on what is regex. So, regex or regular expressions is one of the ways that we can work with text, and we can actually do some text searching and matching. Now, this is going to sound similar to things like wildcards, such as the splat or star, where you can use that in Linux to do things like ls space splat.txt to list all of the files that end in extension.txt. Now, that's a simple use of a wildcard. However, regular expressions actually are significantly more powerful than that. They can give you the ability to do a lot more searching. The example regular expression that I have on the screen right now is actually an example searching for an email address. So this, what looks like I kind of jammed my head into the keyboard. I swear I didn't, but I know it looks like it, is actually how you can search for email addresses within a set of text. Now, a couple of things that I would like to reassure you about for regular expressions. Regular expressions look like nonsense until they don't. So if you look at regular expressions and you think it looks like nonsense, don't stress. Everybody starts there. Completely fine. Regular expressions also need semi-frequent practice. It's very easy to forget what the different symbols mean and how they're put together, and so it's worth giving some practice. Regular expressions can also vary depending on what you're using them in. So, for example, the regular expressions that are used in Perl might have slight differences than the regular expressions that you'd use for the power tool awk. So, it's important that you think about the regular expression language that you are using to make sure that you aren't accidentally creating, say, an awk regular expression to put in a Python script without making sure that it's compatible. Now, the basics refresh is if you go to regex1.com, there's a little quick tutorial that you can do so that you can refamiliarize with some of the common regular expression symbols. Feel free to pause me here while you do that. Regex can actually be used in programming languages such as Perl or Python. Python, you'll have to use a library for it. Regular expressions give you the ability to use less lines of code and be more efficient. However, there is a huge downside. If the person that is reading your code or editing your code later, even if it's you, doesn't know regex, this is not going to be more clear for them. If you don't know regex and you aren't practiced with it and you don't use it frequently, it is not easier than anything else. So one of the things that you want to think about is if you're going to make the choice to use regex within your code, make sure that you have some kind of comment in there about what the regular expression is doing, and some kind of, just notes to yourself, because it's really easy for that to be a problem. Now, regular expressions can be very powerful in code. My example is actually you can take a lot of lines of code and condense it into a single string validator. So you can do things like check input validation to see if this is a valid email address in that one single line of code rather than having to set up, for example, multiple if statements or case statements or something like that. Some example of tools that use regex, set and awk, the Linux power tools, can actually take in regex. grep can take in regex, and the text editors Vim or VI and Emacs can also use regex. Now, this example, normally this would be done in groups in class. You can do this by yourself or with a friend. And what I want you to do is think about what makes an email address? Don't just use my example from the beginning. That's not going to be helpful for you. Come up with your own rules. What is an email address? And I want you to create a regular expression that will validate that address. I have some sample code, sample text here for you to use. On the left, it should match these example addresses. And on the right, we have some addresses that it really shouldn't match because those really aren't regular email addresses that would work. And so, what you want to think about is what makes an email address? Do you have to have an @ sign? Can you have more than one @ sign? What are top level domains? What is allowed? Is there anything that isn't allowed? Can you include country codes? Can you not? Things like that. And then you should make sure that you are including things like 2 or 4 letter domains. Remember, not all domains are, .com, .gov. We also end up having things like .co.uk, which is a valid address. And then I want you to test your regex expression on this data. Please let me know if you have any questions.